Alright, so today I'm going to change the liquid cores in that shell there. So I hooked my gauges up. It had a 3/8 flare at the bottom. I can isolate there and here. For now I shut the outlet for the receiver. The receiver bypass is on. But it's good to practice to loosen the packing nut before you crank on those. Even the small ones. It just preserves the packing. And then I hooked it to the header. I have this 4-way manifold, vacuum manifold. So I put the 3/8 to there. And then I hooked it on the header here. So it's suction coming back to the accumulator. One of the shell. I shut most of these. These are the suction loops for turning. I left a couple open. I got a compressor running still. So I left one compressor running, a couple loops open. That alarm, there's no alarms yet. That's just always there in this rack. I don't know why. I reset the controller. So it's saying my suction pressure is -8. You can't see it. This mechanical control should be shutting it off. So I gotta check that. But for now I shut the liquid feeding the shell. And I purged all my hoses. I'm going to pump it into the header here. Open all of them up. So the rack should shut it off with that suction transducer. It's actually reading minus. It was in a vacuum here as well. So the mechanical control should have shut it off as soon as it got down to like 5 or 3. I mean, you definitely don't want it going into a vacuum because if you have leaks, you're going to be pulling in atmosphere. So now I'm just going to shut this. On here. It's taking a while to pump down. I'm just going to shut this, completely isolate it. And okay, we have this closed on the receiver. The liquid out of the shell going up through the floor and feeding the header. I left all the liquid in each loop. I left all those valves open. You know, while I was running, it would push some of the refrigerant into the store. So I was going to try to isolate this and have the rack pump it down, but it was just taking a while. These are all open. Won't see any more liquid in the sight glass, so you see we're dropping. So instead of getting I mean, you could use a recovery machine and just pump it into the header. You know, you wouldn't need a cylinder, but sometimes I just use the rack. Let this go and pump down and I'll get back to you. Alright, so normally when the header gets below whatever the controller's set to, but that manual mechanical switch should cut the rack out. You don't want it to get below 0, so even 3 to 5 is fine. This is a 404 rack, so 5 is plenty. I mean, you could even go a little higher if you wanted to. Normally I would have to keep it running, push in a contactor because the controller would have cut everything out. So I got to check in there and see the set point, why it wasn't cutting anything out. Normally I would have to hold the contactor until I pull the header down because I got all these isolated, remember. So it's only, it takes a lot of the load off. It'll pull down quick. So pretty much out. I'm going to isolate the manifold. You know what? It went back up a little bit. So I'm going to flip 4 back on. I didn't shut all of them, which we can. Maybe I'll do that. Close the rest of the loops. It's hard to see. Out from the lowest point. If you had a tap here and you're trying to do it, you'd be pulling vapor because that's why it's good when you put this back on, keep that at the lowest point. So I'm going to isolate these real quick. That compressor's pulling into a vacuum. I don't know why the controller's not cutting it off. I'll have to look into that, but for now we'll just change this filter. Flip that off. I have all of them off. Alright, so it's 1/2 inch. I already had loosened them a little bit. Okay, so I just use a little contact cleaner. I mean, you can use brake cleaner or anything that's not going to leave a residue. Pop these shells in. So I just usually use needle nose to pull the canister apart. They come with keys. They don't always give them to you. Alright, so I got it reassembled, lined up. Just put it back the way you took it apart. Just pay attention. I wiped out the inside of the canister. And then I'll, just got to put the spring on. Now this gasket doesn't look bad. I'm going to keep it on there. I'm not going to try to change it. Alright, I got them all hand tight. I was wondering why I was getting hot in here. I left the door open and then the ventilation works better with the door closed. It's going to pull from behind the rack and across the compressors. So it'll cool down actually near the door closed. You got the exhaust fans on either side. So, I mean, I usually will finish off by hand. Oh, I had it in reverse. Okay, now we're going to be going the right way. Skip one. That way you really work it around. And do the ones you didn't get last time. Correct. And I go ahead and I torque them by hand. So I don't know if I can do that while on camera, but I'll try. Going the wrong way again. I mean, you don't gotta get, whoops, that's not good. I'm trying to look through the camera and do it. You don't gotta get crazy. Just make them tight. Don't get too tight. it's leaking, you can always go back and tighten it a little bit. It's better to actually have a ratchet rather than this box wrench, but it works. It's hard to do while I'm on the phone here. Alright, so next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to hook a hose up to here so I can purge it. And then we'll get everything back on. Okay, so I cracked this. I have my little hose up here. Now if you have an alarm in the rack, you want to be careful because you can set it off and shut everything off, depending on how it's wired. And it can be real loud. So if you have that door shut, it'll pull it right out of the rack. Alright, that's plenty. Okay, so I'm going to turn everything back on. I'm going to open everything and check it all out. And then I'm going to have to check that pressure control. Alright guys, thank you. So I just turned on one compressor and I'm going to start opening these loops. I don't want to throw everything on at once. You know, I don't want to slug any of the compressors with all the liquid that might have been pushed into the store. I don't want to bring it right back too fast. Hard to see. I don't have the best phone. Alright, I'm going to flip some more on. Suction pressure is coming back down. 28. Oil levels coming back up. I'm going to give it another. That's about what I'm reading here. So the transducer is good. There might be some of a delay on how long it is for the rack to cut out from the controller with a low suction pressure. But this mechanical control, this is the one that's tied in to the suction header for the compressors in the back here of the rack. So this one should have shut it off. I want to get everything back down to temp. And then I'll check that later. I like to use a high water core and a high acid activated charcoal. You always want to label. Can't see it. Well, I put a tag on there. I got a little label maker. So. Alright, thanks for watching. Sorry about the crappy quality. Take it easy.